the best new feature.
It's like a car radio right on the app.
There's a list of what's trending. There's all the podcasts.
I love it.
Get in on what everyone's talking about and get the new and improved free iHeartRadio app today.
iHeartRadio.
The suggestion box is wide open.
Can we do finger paint?
No, we can't do finger paint.
You're listening to The Rob Dibble Show.
Back on The Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell in your afternoon drive. Thank you so much for keeping us on the air. Joining us now from CLNS Media, covers the Bengals, the NFL, covers all the stuff around the Midwest and Cincinnati area for CLNS Media. Mike Petraglia joins us. And so tell us about the Bengals pick, and then tell us about some of the picks like for the Steelers and the Ravens and everybody else in the division, even the Browns with the trade.
All right, Dibs. I'll start with Shamar Stewart. He met with the media. We just spoke with him about half an hour ago here at Paycor Stadium. And the one thing I will tell you about Shamar, he is not lacking in confidence. He seems like a very poised individual, a defensive edge out of Texas A&M, and a lot of fans are concerned about his lack of production in terms of getting to the quarterback, finishing at the quarterback, which even Shamar told us today he knows he's got to work on that. But he told us, and this is the level of confidence he has, you can look at a stat sheet, but first look at my film. We led the league in pressures on the quarterback. And I think, and he said that he led the team in pressures on the quarterback, meaning he knows that a lot is expected of him because of his frame, 6'6", 270 pounds. There is a lot of potential, high motor in Shamar Stewart. That's why the Bengals took him 17th overall. The Bengals see him as a defensive edge, not to replace Trey Hendrickson, but to play opposite Trey Hendrickson and have bookends, really replacing the retired Sam Hubbard on the other side. I think Shamar Stewart is a gamble. I don't think there's any question about that. The Bengals know that they are betting on his upside, that he is going to continue to improve and continue to make a statement about his ability, and he's going to use that as a chip on his shoulder. He told us that last night in the conference call. It's an interesting choice for the Bengals. Some people think that they could have gone Jihad Campbell, who went later in the first round to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. But the Bengals were desperate to get a defensive edge that not only can play on the outside, but he can move inside. They can move him all around the chessboard, as the defensive coordinator Al Golden said. In terms of what some of the other teams that did, I like what the Browns did in terms of moving down from 2 to 5 and getting Mason Graham, the number one defensive tackle on the board out of Michigan. And, they passed on Travis Hunter. And a lot of people feel that Travis Hunter was, without question, the number one football player on the big board in this draft. We'll see if that pays off for the Browns. And you wanted to jump in?
Well, I was just wondering if Trey Hendrickson has made a statement about the Bengals pick. Usually we talk about the quarterbacks getting all weird if their replacement is drafted. Like you said, there's two positions you can use for defensive end, but did he make a statement, or has anything been said about this defensive end who will be an unrestricted free agent after this year?
No, the Bengals are busy, and I think Trey Hendrickson understands this. He's keeping his mouth shut. The Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are trying to get an extension done for probably 2 years in the neighborhood of, I'd say, $60 million with, let's say, $40 million guaranteed. But I think the two sides are trying to work on that. I don't think that they're particularly – I know they're not particularly close right now, but this is not a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins type of situation, and the Bengals have been acting all along like we have him under contract for this year. We want to get a contract done that makes sense for us and doesn't hurt us on the salary cap, and we want to reward Trey Hendrickson, and that's kind of the way they are playing it. But I expect Trey Hendrickson to take the high road. He is a leader. Shamar Stewart already said, I cannot wait to get in and work with Trey because I just want to be a sponge from him.
All right, so let's go over Pittsburgh and Derek Harmon out of Oregon, and they still need a quarterback. Is Aaron Rodgers the future for them? Your thoughts on why they didn't go with a quarterback, because there are some pretty good ones available.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised that they didn't go quarterback, and everybody is obviously wondering about Shedeur Sanders, and he's still on the board. Why did they not take Shedeur? Dibbs, I think, and you know Dion, and you know the personality, you know the power of his personality, having played with him. You know what he brings to the table, and it's not just on the field. It's a lot of off the field. It's a lot of bravado. And I don't think, Mike Tomlin can handle a lot. There's no question about that. But I don't think the Steelers wanted to take a chance on introducing that type of bravado over, the next several years and developing him into an every game starting quarterback. I just don't think they wanted to take that on. So the next best player on the board was certainly Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon, and putting him next to Cam Hayward, even if Hayward only has 1 or 2 seasons left in the tank, that is a powerful, powerful combination in the middle of the defensive line, just like the Browns are trying to build on the outside or along the defensive line with guys like, obviously, Myles Garrett and now Mason Graham. You see a trend developing in the AFC North. You see teams building up their defenses to try and attack Joe Burrow. That's what really it is all about.
Talking to Mike Petraglia, CLNS Media. You can find his stuff, clnsmedia.com. You used to cover the New England Patriots when you're here in the Boston area. I was really wondering what was going to happen at pick 4, especially if Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter were off the board. I thought one of those two guys was just going to be fit for this coach, Mike Vrabel. But I don't know if this is a consolation prize or if this was where they were thinking all along. Campbell, the offensive lineman that they picked up, what did you think about the pick number 4 overall for the New England Patriots?
Very safe, logical pick. I got to tell you, it's not the flashiest pick, but they did the right thing for their franchise quarterback in Drake May. You want to have a guy like Will Campbell out there who said today at Foxborough, I'd die for my quarterback and I'd die for Drake May. That is a good attitude to have. That's the right message, and he certainly projects as the top overall offensive tackle in this draft. And if you have the combination of skill and talent that Will Campbell brings to the table, along with a passion to know that he's protecting the number one asset on your team and in Drake May, I think that was a smart, solid move. Sometimes the best move, guys, is not the flashiest, but the most logical. And I could say that about the Bengals. The Bengals could have, perhaps made a flashier move. Maybe you could make an argument for the Bengals could have taken Derek Harmon. There were a lot of Bengal fans who kind of wish they had done that, but they already signed T.J. Slayton from Green Bay as a defensive tackle inside, so they felt their priority was to go outside. But again, the smartest move for a team like New England, when they're building for the future, you got to protect your quarterback. And the Bengals learned that the hard way the first couple of years here with Joe Burrow. They were constantly looking for that offensive tackle or bookend tackles to protect Burrow. They finally, it looks like they definitely got it right. Now the Patriots are going through that same process. They know after what they went through last year, they've got to have a stout offensive line if they want to go back to the playoffs soon.
Mike, you spent a lot of money on your quarterback, your wide receivers and stuff. Bengals, tell me about the running game. Joe Mixon, I thought, he did such a great job the last few years. You didn't have him last year. Finished 9-8 and third in the AFC North. Your thoughts on where they may go in the next couple of rounds?
Well, that's a great question, Dibbs. They have Chase Brown. They're bringing back Zach Moss, who's coming off a neck injury midway through last year. They brought Samaje Perine, who was a big part of the puzzle on their Super Bowl team in 21, also a big part of their team in 22 when they went to the AFC Championship and lost in Kansas City. So Samaje Perine is back. That's 3 guys. Is there a chance they could draft a change of pace back or another bell cow type of running back, maybe even a local product. Corey Kiner out of the University of Cincinnati. I like him a lot. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in a Big 12 conference. Certainly passing is a big priority in the Big 12, but a guy like Corey Kiner here in Cincinnati, a local product, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bengals add to the running back room with a young, dynamic ball carrier who they trust to touch the ball every so once in a while to give a guy like Chase Brown a break. But to your point, Dibs, the guy here in Cincinnati, the running back of the future is Chase Brown.
Trags, what are your Ohio friends saying about the Buckeye quarterback, Will Howard? He's still top 5 available, and there's a lot of places that needs someone like that.
You know who needs him? Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Cleveland. I mean, either one of those teams drafting Will Howard, I don't think that's a terrible move. Now, Cleveland may have designs on Arch Manning next year, if that indeed is their long-term plan. But, that means you're counting on really stinking this year. And no team is going to come out and say that. No team is going to do that. And if you stockpile a quarterback like Will Howard and he turns into something, well, then that's not a bad thing. Right. I think Will Howard makes a lot of sense for the Steelers, and I think he's a proven winner. And the Steelers are an organization where drafting players with championship pedigree matters. It matters all over the NFL, but when you're talking about that position, to have a guy like Will Howard come in, I think they'd be willing to take a chance. Does that mean he's going to turn into an overnight sensation right away? Not necessarily, but there's a culture that's bigger than the quarterback in Pittsburgh and in Baltimore. We didn't talk about the Baltimore Ravens taking Malachi Starks, and that's again another move to kind of counter the Joe Burrow effect here in Cincinnati. The Malachi Starks move to pair him with Kyle Hamilton, that's a pretty terrific secondary they're building in Baltimore.
Let's talk about pitching. Let's talk Hunter Green and Paul Skeens. And everybody nationally knows about Paul Skeens. Not a lot of people know about Hunter Green, who's having a very solid year, a couple years removed from Tommy John surgery. Your thoughts? You get to see this kid. He's a great kid. What do you see out of him?
Well, I had Jeff Brantley on my Code Reds podcast on CLNS this week, and Cowboy told me that what he really likes about Hunter Green is his maturity in developing and relying on his secondary stuff. And early on this year, even though he was putting up great numbers, Hunter kept telling us after every start, well, my secondary stuff isn't there. My secondary stuff isn't there. It's not where I want it to be. To me, that's a sign, Dibs, and I think you'd probably agree, of maturity, that he knows where his ceiling can be, and that is to be a top of the rotation ace for a championship contending ball club. And I think the Reds have done a really good job of taking their time with Hunter Green and kind of developing that attitude, developing his stuff. Pitching coach Derek Johnson has played a huge role in letting Hunter Green kind of grow into his comfort zone. His fastball, he hit, I forget who it was, in that Baltimore game on Saturday, hit him with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and he said after the game, my arm was tired. I was going through almost a dead arm effect. And people were wondering, how can a guy throwing 100 miles an hour have dead arms? And Cowboy told me, Jeff Brantley, that what that really means is you don't have the strength to control your secondary pitches. The reason I'm going through all of this, Dibs, is because I think Hunter Green is aware of all of these intricacies within his game, and he knows what his ceiling is. I keep going back to the term ceiling. He knows the level of excellence he can reach, and I think he is quickly ascending to that level. Remember, he was an all-star last year, but that, to me, is only the tip of the iceberg. I think Hunter Green could be definitely the ace of the rotation, and he's growing also into a leader on the staff as well.
Do you know if Ellie De La Cruz is still using that torpedo bat?
That's a good question. No, I don't know if he is on a regular basis. My inclination is no, he is not. But I have not confirmed that. You know what? That is a great question to ask. And when they get back,
I'll call Rick Stowe. Rick Stowe will give me the straight poop.
Well, he's hitting 245,
Right.
and we've been hating on Volpe and Jazz Chisholm here in
They
Yankee
ain't
land.
hitting
Oh my
squat
gosh,
with a torpedo bat.
since that Brewers opening game that they keep playing on Yes Network, it's been nothing but downhill with that torpedo bat. And I just want my boy Ellie De La Cruz on the base paths. He's only got 10 bags right now. I want him to have 100 stolen bases before the season's over.
I agree. I mean, I think Ellie's got to talk about someone who's got a lot of growth left in his game, who can, is clearly regarded as one of the more sensational stars in the game. He's got a lot of growth yet to achieve, especially offensively.
Yeah.
The consistency just hasn't been there yet for Ellie. But it's also still the first month of the season. And I will say this about Ellie. He doesn't panic. He doesn't, he doesn't make drastic changes just for the sake of making them. He tries to stay patient. And for a young kid, Dibbs, you know this, for a guy that's still only 22, 23 years of age, to stay patient and understand that your talent's going to find its level, that's a gift in and of itself.
Well, I think the toughest thing is, especially for young hitters, and we see it all the time with the Red Sox. We see their young hitters, Yankees and the Mets all the time, is once they know you're good, they're not going to give you pitches to hit. So you have to become more selective. And
Ellie's done that this year, Rob. He has absolutely found a way to become more selective. He's taken more pitches. And sometimes you have to take strikes. Sometimes you even have to take a strike out and say, I wasn't going to hit that pitch anyway, just to let the pitcher know that you're not going to chase.
Yeah, right now he's projected for 227 strikeouts. He's at 31. He's got to make some contact or take more walks, it's tough at 23. I wanted to bring up Hunter Green's only 25.
Oh, they're
very young.
Yeah.
They've got so much in front of them. So. But man, hey, thank you for coming on. I know you're really busy. I know you came right out of like the introductions there in Cincinnati,
awesome.
and to come on the show. So we really appreciate you,
Love
man.
it.
Dibbs, you know that. I'd do anything for you guys.
I can't believe you had Cowboy on before me, though. I'm kind of offended.
Okay, we've already talked about this off platform, as we say in the business.
I'm just kidding. I'm coming on.
I'm going to get you back on, dude.
I know.
You're like our Will Campbell. You'll do anything for us.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Trags.
All right, guys. Take care.
See you, Trags.
Bye-bye.
Mike Petraglia. I hope he knows I was kidding.
I don't know. He went away on that phone call.
I know.
It was very disparate. What did you think, Kurt? No? You didn't like it? Blew him off?
He's gone.
I've known him for over 20 years.
Happened pretty quick.
Honestly, I've known him since the 80s when he worked for the Reds. So I'll apologize. I wasn't trying
He'll
to
be fine.
dig. No, so Tom Hume, Jeff Brantley, and I all have 88 career saves for the Reds.
That's wild.
It's wild.
That is wild.
So
88 club.
anytime I hear Jeff Brantley's name, I'm like, oh, the Cowboy. But nah, he is cool stuff, man. He's a good teammate. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Oh, man.
It's time.
Already Friday.
It's time.
Who we got?
Oh,
Who you
yeah.
got coming up next?